Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming. Let's try out a new game called Endzone, A World Apart. This is a post-apocalyptic city builder. The story is that in 2021, a coordinated terrorist attack blew up nuclear power plants all over the world and plunged the planet into an irradiated chaos. Some humans survived by fleeing to underground bunkers called Endzones, and 150 years later, humanity is just now peeking back out onto the surface and trying to scratch out a living from amongst the ruins. Now, this game is currently in closed beta for me, but it will be going into early access on April 2nd on Steam. I'll include a link in the description down below, but thank you to the developers for getting me early access. Now, I will say going into this early access period, I don't know what kind of pricing information we're looking at. I don't know what the roadmap is as far as how this game is going to continue to develop over time, so it's something to keep an eye on. But when they sent me a code for this, I looked at the game and I'm like, you know what, this gives me some Surviving the Aftermath and Banished vibes, which are two games that I really enjoy. So I wanted to give it a shot and just see what it has to offer. Now we're going to go ahead and name this settlement Hope Valley because I just think it makes a lot of sense for something like this, and I'm not going to touch any of the other default tools, though we certainly could make the game more difficult if we wanted to. But again, I'm just going for a taste more than anything else. Here's some ruins right here as we wait for a loading screen. Now the game, as I said, does have a lot of Surviving the Aftermath aesthetic appeal to it. Which, you know, makes a lot of sense. There's only so much you can do with post-apocalyptic scrap, honestly. But, as far as playstyle, it actually reminds me a lot more of Banished itself, in that it's pretty hardcore. If you mess up with your resource projections and you are unable to react to certain events, you will enter a death spiral and everything will careen out of control. I'd actually say that in some ways it's a little bit faster paced than Banished. It feels like the population rates can really explode if you're not paying attention, which can be a good thing or a really bad thing, again, depending on how much you're prepared. A fresh start. This seems like a suitable place to settle. You know what we learned back in the Endzone. Basic needs first. We need to install water and food supply, and afterwards, let's build ourselves a new home. All right, we'll pause up here. So we have 15 colonists in this start. 10 are adults, and 5 are useless children. Over here we have a wrecked bus, which will provide some of our early housing needs and also a gathering place for all of our villagers, but we'll want to upgrade this. It kind of will function as a town center for most of the game. Now, if you take a look at our overall map, we have a couple of sources of water nearby. Not too bad, honestly. Lots of different scrap all over the map here, which we can gather up for various useful materials. There's some pretty cool stuff to be had on this map, like giant windmills. That's fun. There should be like city streets and stuff, old shops, yeah. Gas stations, that's all falling apart. Sometimes you even find like a giant nuclear power plant, which if I'm lucky, I'll find one of those because they look pretty cool, honestly. Not seeing one yet. I don't know if we got a nuclear power plant on this map. Oh, yes, we did. There it is. This stuff has a lot of scrap attached to it. Looks pretty cool, right? Very eerie. Love the appeal of this. Anyway, so we'll go back over to our colony. So we need to survive out here. We'll have to start by gathering up water and food, of course, then basic building materials. Let's take a look at our basic resources. I'll try to go through this fast so I don't overwhelm you guys too much. You'll understand more as we just play. So we start off with needing food and water, as I said. Of course, 2 resources that if we don't have, then people will, you know, die. Then we need to get wood, which is a basic construction material, chop down trees. Scrap, which can be gathered up from a lot of these piles. And the scrap can also be recycled into several other useful goods for crafting, such as cloth, metal, plastic, and electronics. We're going to need a bunch of all of these. We also have tools, which improves productivity, and radiation protection, which I'll talk about in just a little bit, but this is kind of like clothing. We also have pharmaceuticals for medicine, and finally charcoal, which is mostly used to clean water from radiation. Under here we have our average health, our average confidence, which is like a morale mechanic, and our average radiation. Now, if we take a look at some map modes over here, we can take a look at radiation and things like water. So here's soil moisture at the beginning of the game. Right now, looking pretty good. A lot of good, moist soil. This will be shifting a lot as days goes on, and we don't get enough rain clouds and so on. So farms will want to place in good, controlled areas, but sometimes it dries out. You really have to pay attention. Then we have radiation. We can see that the green patches here are Earth radiation. Low radiation, not especially threatening, but it can be a problem. That's where having radiation protection comes into play. If you're not wearing the right clothing, well, then you might just get sick or sterile, or both. Those things can happen. Maybe you just die. I don't know. All of the above is an option. So we want to protect ourselves from those. Now, Earth radiation can kind of shift around as time goes on. So what looks bad right now might turn out to be kind of fine later. I'm not going to let it stop me too much in the early game, but you do definitely want to prepare for it and make sure you have plenty of radiation protection to go around. Otherwise, well, you're kind of in a lot of trouble. Now, if we look down here in the bottom left, we have our professions. This is, again, very similar to Banished, in where you can set up your settlers to various different jobs, and they will automatically go and find the nearest job to perform, and you can rearrange your workforce as needed. And then over here, we have buildings and tasks. Now, water is the first thing that I know I am going to need, and a lake is a good place to gather up some water. So I'm going to place down a cistern, let's say up over here, I think. That should be fine. We're actually going to clear some radiation out in this area to make this building work. And we're also going to place down a boardwalk right over here, I guess. Can I place it here? I can, actually. Perfect. Place down a boardwalk so that people can walk out here, gather up some water, and then walk over to a cistern. A cistern is basically a giant water storage facility. Kind of like a water tower, but this is an upgrade for a cistern. Water towers actually can use carbon to filter out radiation from water, which is helpful. There are a couple of ways of getting water besides the cistern and the boardwalk. We could use a rain collector, which, depending on the weather, might result in some extra water from me. That water can be contaminated with radiation, though, so we do have to be careful. We also can place down a well. Wells are a very slow way of gathering up water, but only takes one person, and the advantage of a well is you still have a water source even during a drought. Droughts are a situation, a special event on the map, where all the water dries up. Like, all of it. Seriously, like, this lake will be gone. So, having a well can be good, but it also gets water so slowly that I'm not really convinced that it's worth the time and effort at this point. We can actually just go ahead and assign pretty much everybody to building jobs for now. I mean, why not? Just go ahead and do that. We do need to get some food sources as well. There are a few things we can do here. Could place down some fields and plantations to grow organic food. We could also get a fishing hut, a gatherer's hut, and a hunting lodge. Obviously, these all gather their respective materials, fish, berries, and venison or pork or whatever a wild animal happens to be around. Like these little guys right here. Hi, deer. Place down a hunting lodge in this approximate area. If any deer wander into the circle where the hunting lodge is working, it'll automatically hunt down the beasties and get all of the food. Gatherer's huts, you can see any of the berries over here. And then fish, of course, just go on the lake. Can I place this anywhere over here? Is this going to be allowed, or is there no space for this currently? Could place one over here, I suppose, but it's not great. Well, I say that. It kind of covers most of the lake. It's not too bad. Let's go ahead and place down a fisher's hut over here. Placing down around the irradiated areas is probably not the smartest thing, but we're going to be able to clear out some of this radiation, so it'll work out all right. It's not going to be too bad. We do want to place down, of course, the fish, but I also want to get some fields going because, you know, having some reliable crops can be a pretty big deal. We're going to go ahead and place down probably something kind of like this. A 10 by 12 should be fine to start us off. Now, if we click on this field, we can choose what seed we want to be planting. First, I have to clear out this radiation before I can do anything, so let's let them do all of that. They're going a little bit on the slow side. Yeah, planting down around radiation kind of sucks. But there's our cistern, so that's done. They are clearing this out. Now we can plant down a seed. So if we go here, we can choose which crop we want to plant. Now, it tells you what the grow time is, how many seasons, which is kind of like days in this game, it's going to take for us to have our full yield, and what that maximum yield can be. Ideally, you want to get the largest yield possible in the shortest amount of time. If you do the math, by a long shot, the fastest crop with the best yield is going to end up being peppers. Only 0.875 with 240 food. Mathematically, this is the best ratio. I'm going to go ahead and plant these down. Now, there might be some other features as far as like certain crops are more disease resistant or something along those lines. If that's the case, I'm not aware of it, but that very well could be a thing. We need to get at least one farmer to plant this stuff down. We'll make sure we have some people working in water carrying, and then probably a couple more over here for fish. And we have a couple of settlers right now that aren't doing anything in particular. This is where placing down tasks can be helpful. This works a lot like the tasking system in Dawn of Man, in which you're going to place down, let's say, a radius over here, and up to 4 extra workers who have nothing else to do will come over here and start gathering up materials. I'm going to go ahead and tell them to gather up all things in this area, all the lumber, all the scrap, all the berries, all the herbs, etc., just to clear some space because, you know, I would like to be able to build out my settlement in this area without having a lot of obstructions. Seems reasonable to me. All right, so over here we have our water carriers who are going to be going out and gathering up some water and then just immediately dropping it off in the cistern. Because I place these so close together, we should be able to build up a water supply pretty quickly overall. The fisher hut being as far away as it is a little on the unfortunate side, but oh well, I think we're going to have to make that one work. All right, so we are planting down our peppers already, so that's looking pretty good. What other resources would we like? Well, Let's take a look at that. Let's see. There are a few different buildings we can work with here. A scrapyard. If we place this down over here, we can move its work area around. Oh, I just realized there's a plane over here. And a helicopter. Wow, that's pretty cool. Sorry. So this stuff, you can move your work zone around and gather up scrap and bring it back to the base. Can be helpful. Forester's Lodge. We can cut down trees or plant new ones, or both. Good for maintaining good forested areas. A recycler is a very important building. It's going to take scrap and slowly start sifting through it to get various different materials. Either metal, cloth, plastic, or electronics. It's very slow and inefficient. We're not going to want to use this for very long, and you can only get one at a time. Ideally, eventually we move on to a refinery, which can have many people working at the same time to gather all 4 materials from scrap simultaneously. But it's a very large and expensive building. We have the herbal hut, which gathers up herbs, which we can use to create various medicines. The tailor, which takes cloth and turns it into radiation protection. The workshop takes metal or scrap and turns them into tools. And a charcoal burner, which takes logs and creates charcoal, which again is good for filtering out the radiation. All this making sense so far? Good. Let's go to our housing now, because pretty soon we are going to need to be having housing. Houses are going to work just like Banished. You place down a house, and if there is a spare adult man and woman, they will form a couple, a family unit, and then move into that house. Once you have a man and a woman living in a house together, guess what comes next? That's right, babies. So that's how you are going to grow your population. Now, be careful of this, because in this game, it seems like population growth is pretty rapid. So if you are constantly building new housing every time you see new couples available, you'll find yourself in a cycle where all of a sudden your population skyrockets and you cannot produce enough food to provide for everybody. That would be a rather huge problem. To get around that, we have the shelter. The shelter is a large camp that can house a lot of people, but it is not considered suitable for raising a family, and therefore no children will be born as long as this is around. I like having this. We will be using it. Very good way of providing for your needs of your population without growing your pops too fast. Then finally we have things like a house with a tank, which gives you water storage, which I assume just means people don't have to walk as far if they want to get some water, which can be nice. For community, we have campfires, which is a good way to give a congregating spot for everybody, builds up morale. They like that a lot. A pub can turn wheat into beer. Wheat and water, into beer, or other like herbs and fruits and stuff into various forms of liquor. Good for building up confidence. A medical facility is useful for taking care of people who are sick and distributing medicine. A school can teach children so they're more educated and they are working faster when they're adults. Cemeteries for grieving for the deceased. And finally, the weather station, which is interesting. This decides at what level rain contamination levels we can accept. And if it's too high, they'll automatically cover up fields and rain collectors so we don't irradiate too much from that water. Very useful. Not something I'm going to be using, in the very early game. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Didn't mean to place that. Boof! This one exploded. We can place down roads. Also depositories, which is good for storing all kinds of food, clothing, and tools. Just a basic storage hut. And a market, which is a bit of a mid-game, late-game thing to do, which helps distribute goods all across the colony. Finally, we have electricity. Electricity is something we'll worry about a little bit more in the mid-game. We can use solar collectors and batteries and then power lines to collect and distribute electricity all across the base. Electricity pretty much makes everything more efficient. So you do want to have this eventually. Right now, I feel pretty good without it. Let's go ahead and start placing down some other buildings that I know I'm going to need, such as a forester's hut. Now, where am I okay with growing some trees? How about up over here-ish? This seems okay to me. I want to grow plenty of trees and then harvest them as necessary. So I'll place something like that. And then I would also like to get a recycler. Sure, we can start off with a recycler, I think. I'm going to place you right... you know what? I don't know where I want to place you. Let's hold off on that for a second. We'll come back to that one. Let's actually move this task somewhere else. Gather up scrap and stuff that's over here. Get rid of some of this. It's in my way. I'm trying to think how we're going to do this as far as the most efficient placement for all of our resource gathering and storage and refining buildings. What we may want to do is have forestry, herbal gathering, and hunting in this approximate area. And then maybe over here, we'll gather up scrap and refine it into useful materials. Yes, I think I like that idea. Let's go ahead and place down a scrapyard right over there, and a recycler nearby. We will place... Actually, let's first place down a depository, just so we have some storage immediately nearby as they gather up scrap. And then we'll place a recycler right across over here. Okay, that seems reasonable enough to me. Then I'm going to go ahead and place down some roads. Now, this is not just like a click and drag thing. Like I'm clicking right now and holding it down. Don't do that. Click, let go, drag it around, click again. Now, I'd like it to be a click and drag. I think that's a little bit better, but this is what the developers decided to go with. Also, I don't think there are any diagonals for your roads. At least I haven't found a hotkey that can do it yet. So everything's very much in a grid pattern in this stage of the game. That might change in the future. I don't really know. We are already harvesting our first round of peppers. That's great, but as you can see from this warning right here, we are actually going right on into a drought. Droughts are bad, again, because all the water disappears. This lake will be gone. So hopefully we have enough water and enough food to last for the next season until we get back to a rainy season like so. Makes sense so far? I think so. Let's see. We have a few extra settlers sitting around right now. Let's go for salvager, refiner, forester. A builder would be nice, just so we can build things up a little bit faster. Okay. They'll be gathering up all the resources we need and automatically depositing them. You already have gathered up all the scrap in this area, so let's move somewhere else. How about down over here for the time being? And the drought has officially hit, and there goes all the water. So all of this has become useless. Ouch. Droughts are no joke. You need to always be paying attention for these. If you do not have enough water, you are going to die. A horrible, horrible death. Now you can see that we're actually requiring some housing. Apparently, the wrecked bus only lasts for 1 day. And then they say, you know what? We want a place to live. So, okay, we can probably arrange that. Let's go ahead and set up a basic little neighborhood. Right over here, I think. We'll do something like this and like this. And then maybe a little alley between a couple just to break things up. And then we'll go like this. There we go. Quite a few houses. Going to take up a lot of our resources, but we need all of the above. And right now, there's not a lot to do as far as water carriers or fishers. So let's just go ahead and assign a few extra builders to make this go by a little bit faster. Okay, so the scrapyard is officially done. We are going to move the work area to right over here. There is 792, nope, about 800 scrap or so to be gathered right here. There we go. So now this area moves out. They'll go over here, gather up everything they can, and bring it back to the scrapyard, and then immediately get deposited in the depository. The recycler is done. Now we can only choose one of the 4 materials at a time. I'm going to go with cloth, because I know that getting extra radiation protection is going to end up being a very, very high priority for me. Let's actually go ahead and look at building up a tailor, and I'll again place it close by to the depository, just so we can make everything a little bit more efficient as far as like storage and just not having a lot of walking time between doing your jobs, you know what I mean? Oh, there's a sandstorm approaching in a couple of days. That'll be fun. Slows them people down, moves the radiation around on the map, and all... Oh, never mind, it's on its way right now, and damages buildings. So we actually switch over to the radiation map mode. We should be able to see that things are going to move around. So far, not really. But a lot of buildings got damaged in the process, so that's great. But this is what the builders can go ahead and fix. They'll just go around here and try to fix it up the best they can. How are we looking as terms of water? Absolutely none. No water to be had until the drought is gone. Yikes. Can't place down any food. Yeah, I do not like droughts. They are rough. They are super duper rough. You've already gathered everything you can. Let's go ahead and move you somewhere else. How about over here for now? Just keep gathering up materials wherever we can. How are we looking as far as the Forester's Lodge? We are missing scrap. Until we gather up more scrap, not a whole lot that we can do. Let's go to our population. You can see that we actually have had 3 of our children grow up and become adults. So let's go ahead and assign at least another one over here to salvaging. We have somebody assigned for tailoring. And then we don't need this many builders. The drought should be ending about now, so let's go ahead and get some water carriers and fishers back. There we go. All right, here comes the rains. Boom. Much, much better. Oh, that makes me feel super duper comfortable with the situation. Let's actually swap over to the water map mode. You can see lots of water building up over here thanks to the rain clouds. As the rain clouds travel on, though, it will be changing. But for now, much needed. Thank you very, very much. Okay. So this is going right back into where we were before. Gonna have enough water and enough food, I'm hoping, to get through for a little bit longer. We do need a lot more population if we're gonna make this one work, though, for our food and stuff, because right now, only having a couple of fishers and 1 farmer is not gonna last us for very long. I need a lot more than this. We do still have somebody who is homeless, apparently. Okay, I guess we can go ahead and assign at least another house right over, let's say, here. That should be okay. Let's also place down a community area with a campfire right over here, just so that people have a place to congregate, make merry and all that, bring up our average confidence so that people will move a little bit faster. If you have low confidence, well then population growth goes down. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe having low confidence is a good thing, because you don't want a ton of population growth. Necessarily, anyway. It seems a little bit counterintuitive, but maybe that is actually the case. The tailor is done being built. Now over here, we can use up our cloth to build up 3 different types of products. We have a neck scarf, which is very cheap. It only takes 3 cloth to make 2 neck scarves. This protects settlers from low radiation. Then we have the activated carbon mask, which uses 3 cloth and 2 charcoal, which I don't have right now, to make 2 of these, good for medium radiation. And finally, the radiation suit, which is very expensive, at 6 cloth, 4 charcoal, and 2 plastic for only 1 suit. But again, protects against the high levels of radiation. For the most part in the early game, I'm only really worried about low radiation, so we'll go for the cheaper option, going for just the neck scarves. I think that will end up being just fine. Let's repair this darn thing, please. Lots of stuff not being properly repaired. Oh, no, never mind. It appears to have suddenly been repaired. I just clicked the repair next button and it just happened. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm not confused by that at all. Let's go ahead and place down some more roads, kind of like this. I'm going to try placing down this campfire, but I actually think I might be onto something as far as, like, not building it and getting too high of a confidence, because we don't want a ton of population growth. We need some, like a healthy amount, but not a lot. I'm sure it'll end up being fine. Let's place down some more fields. Let's see, where do I want more? If we place down some more, let's say over here, we can do something like this. Sure, 10 by 12 should be fine. Now, if we don't want to plant peppers, let's go for something like corn. This is pretty good as well, 1.75 seasons for 360 food. Not a bad ratio, all in all. And let's also plant down a plantation. Pretty large one if I can. Maybe too large, apparently. How about we go for a... I guess we can only do a 15 by 8 for now because the plane's in the way. I'm not a fan of that. That said, I think it may still be the best choice. So yeah, we'll go for the 15 by 8 or something like that. Could do 16 by 8, I guess. All right, let's go ahead and place this down. For plantations, you are going to grow orchards. It takes a long time for them to grow up into maturity. But then afterwards, it only takes 1 season to regrow a pretty hefty amount of food. So plantations are very, very good. Now again, as far as what you get for your maximum yield for the grow time, some of the best stuff to go for is going to end up being walnuts and pecans. Pecans, ultimately, like, again, you can wait 5.5 seasons, but every season you get 630 food. That is substantial. Ultimately, this last number here is probably what you want to worry about the most. Walnuts, pecans, and peaches appear to be the best value as far as that is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and go for some peaches just because I like peaches, though I think pecans are technically a little bit better. Let's also go ahead and assign an extra farmer. We don't need this many builders. 1 more farmer. You have to have at least 1 farmer per field in order to make this work. So that's what I'm going for the moment. Let's get some more dirt roads like so. Just trying to make this look a little bit beautified and also improve our travel speed. I just like a little bit of logistics, you know what I mean? The Forester's Lodge is done. We should probably just go ahead and build out a road over here as well. Let's go for something like this. Now, this is where having some diagonals would be nice, so I can kind of hug the side of the water a little bit more effectively. I don't like having to click like this, necessarily. It's a little irritating. But, okay. Nah, we can make it work nonetheless. I am stubborn. I shall make this look good, dang it. Shall do so. If it kills me. And you guys go over this way. And we'll put you back up over here, and then something like this. That should be fine for the time being. Okay, let's just go for that. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to go ahead and place down a hunting lodge. Not that I fully expect to make use of it right now, but we can place it relatively close to the forester's hut. Now, I'm assuming, with no evidence, that this game will function a little bit like Banished, in that animals will like to congregate in wooded areas, and that plants, berries, and herbs and such will grow up around wooded areas as well. So I'm kind of assuming that's the case, and if that is true, then we want to have it relatively close by to the forested area. At the moment, though, I look like I don't have enough food, and that is starting to worry me a wee little bit. We do need to get ourselves another house because we don't have enough people. or sorry, enough shelter for the number of people we currently have, so let's place down one right there. You can see here, by the way, that we have one man and one woman being placed in each of these houses, and of course then, there comes children, so boop-a-doop-a-dook, mazel tov. We are growing up the number of families currently available in the population. There's a campfire done. Should boost up our average confidence a little bit. Up over here, we can see our notifications, but also there's something here called goals. Once in a while, you'll get kind of a quest, gather up like so much of a certain resource, and it gives you some sort of a bonus. I don't think there's any particular story as to why you get these quests and who they're coming from, but I mean, you know, it's cool. I like having some extra resources and stuff. Who's going to complain? All right, so this is all looking pretty good so far. 15 adults, 1 spare at the moment. Don't have any hunters currently available. We'll need some of that. Yeah, we're going to be very pressed for workers at the beginning of the game, and this is where having some population growth does become very, very important. 1 builder going around at the moment. I guess we'll go ahead and assign this guy as a hunter. We do need to set up a work zone, and you can see that there's a big question mark because there are no animals currently. I can move this work area around, and if there are any animals, we'll be able to hunt them down. Now, this gets a little annoying to me because the animals wander around a lot, so it's not always consistent where you're going to get the darn things, and every time, once in a while, you look over here, and the Hunter's Lodge isn't doing anything. It's like, well, what am I doing? And you have to go ahead and redeploy it somewhere else, and blah, blah, blah. It gets a little irritating to me. I guess we'll go ahead and place it over here for now, since there's literally only food over here right now. But these deer will wander, so let's try to pay attention to that, if at all possible. But there we go. So at the moment, we have a semi-sustainable colony, but as our children grow up into adults, we will be able to produce a lot more food. Right now, it's a little low for my comfort. One really bad drought could turn into a huge problem going forward, but we have a lot of the basics and essentials done. Now it's just a matter of really building out a lot more resource production, making sure our food and water stay on top, and then slowly but surely moving our population forward so we actually can produce lots of special goods. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I think this is a good primer into this series. I'm going to make this relatively short. I'm not sure how long I'm going to do it. Probably like, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 6 videos, depending a lot on the reception I get from you guys. So if you want to see more of this type of content, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I, as always, will see you guys next time.